The stars hung in silence, endless, cold, and still. Then, through the darkness, something massive came into view. The Aurelius Station, home of the Galactic Council, floated like a shining flower in the void. Its 5 great arms spread from a glowing center, each representing one of the ancient races who ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years. Inside a small human transport ship, John Carter stood near the viewing port, staring in awe. He had seen planets, colonies, and moons, but nothing like this. Beside him, Susan Miller adjusted her blue uniform, the same deep shade as Earth's oceans. "It's beautiful," she whispered. John nodded slowly. "Beautiful, and dangerous." At the back, Kevin Pierce, their tech specialist, tapped on his tablet. "Docking approved," he said. "The council is ready for us." John turned toward his team, his voice calm but firm. "Remember, we're here as peace envoys. The eyes of Earth are on us. First impressions matter." Their ship moved closer. The huge station grew larger until it filled the view. As the magnetic clamps locked, a soft vibration ran through the floor. A hiss, the airlock sealed. The door slid open. A group of aliens stood waiting. Tall, colorful, each of them different. Some had scales, others fur, one floated above the ground. At the center stood a tall blue-skinned being with silver eyes. "Welcome to Aurelius Station," the alien said in a calm, musical voice. "I am Diplomat Kervil of the Zepurian Empire. The council awaits your arrival." John bowed slightly. "John Carter, representing Earth and all of humanity. We come in peace." Kervil's silver eyes studied him, expression unreadable. "Follow me." The halls of Aurelius were vast. Ceilings stretched high above, glowing softly with light that changed colors as they walked. Strange symbols glimmered on the walls. Dozens of alien species passed by, some floating, some walking, others moving like mist. Susan whispered, "It feels like walking through history." Kervil glanced back. "The Council has maintained peace across 60% of the galaxy. It values order above all." John smiled politely. "Earth hopes to add to that peace." Kervil's eyes narrowed slightly. "Yes. Contributing, as all new species must." Something about his tone made Susan uneasy. They entered the council chamber, a massive circular hall with raised platforms. Dozens of alien delegates watched as the humans stepped inside. In the center sat the High Counselor, Vexer, a creature half reptile, half insect, with shimmering red scales and many black eyes. When Vexer spoke, his translator hummed with static. "Earth has developed faster than any recorded species. This is unusual." John kept his tone calm. "Humans are adaptable. We learn quickly." Another delegate, a red-skinned being with 4 arms, leaned forward. "And you build weapons quickly as well. For a young race, your armies are impressive." "For defense only," John replied. "We come from a divided world. We know the cost of war." Vexer's mandibles clicked softly. "So much conflict in your history. So much destruction. Tell us, human, how do we know you will not bring that chaos to our stars?" The hall grew quiet. John looked around. Dozens of alien eyes stared at him, cold and cautious. "We come seeking peace," he said. "Not dominance. Humanity wants to be part of something greater." A few delegates nodded. Others turned away. The meeting dragged on for hours. Questions, tests, veiled warnings. By the end, John's team was exhausted. When they returned to their quarters, Kevin collapsed into a chair. "That went well," he joked weakly. Susan sighed. "They're afraid of us, John. Every question was about our weapons, our ships, our speed." John looked out the window. The stars beyond seemed distant, watching. "We'll convince them," he said quietly. "We have 3 weeks of talks ahead. We'll show them humanity means peace." He turned back to his team, forcing a small smile. "After all, what's the worst that could happen?" They laughed softly, trying to relax. But none of them noticed the small metallic sphere tucked high in the corner of the room, no larger than a coin. Its red light blinked once. Then again. Somewhere deep within the station, far below the council chambers, a figure watched their every move through a holographic screen. "The humans hide their true strength," the watcher said, voice cold and sharp. "They are not peaceful. They are dangerous." Another voice replied from the shadows. "Should we report this to the High Counselor?" The first voice hesitated. "No, not yet. Let us see what they do next." The camera zoomed closer to John's face, calm, determined, unaware. The red light blinked one last time before fading into the dark. The light of Aurelius Station never faded. Day and night blended into a constant silver glow, cold and sterile. For 3 weeks, John Carter and his team met with dozens of council members. Every meeting polite, every smile carefully practiced. But something had changed. The first few days were warm and curious. Aliens asked about human culture, music, art. But now the questions had turned sharp, about weapons, fleets, energy sources. And one by one, meetings started getting cancelled. Susan noticed first. They moved our meeting with the Dre-T delegation again, she said, scrolling through her tablet. That's the third cancellation this week. Kevin frowned. Strange. They were supposed to support our membership. John leaned back thinking. Something's happening behind closed doors. I can feel it. Later that night, John walked alone through the quiet corridors of the station. Outside the tall glass panels, he could see ships docking, huge cruisers with glowing engines, marked with the crests of council fleets. Warships. Not diplomatic vessels. He stopped to look closer. 2 armored soldiers stood at the docking bay, whispering in their native tongue. John couldn't understand the words, but he recognized the tone, tension, alertness. When they noticed him watching, they turned away quickly. A faint unease spread through his chest. The next morning, Diplomat Kervil arrived in their quarters. His usually calm face looked troubled. Ambassador Carter, he said softly, I must warn you, some members of the council believe your people have come too far too fast. John frowned. Too fast? We only wish to join the community to share knowledge and peace. Kervil shook his head. Peace frightens them less than potential. You see, your species grew without their control. No guidance. No approval. That makes the council uneasy. Susan stepped forward. Are you saying they see us as a threat? Kervil's silver eyes glimmered. I am saying nothing, he whispered. I am only advising you to be careful. Not everyone in that chamber wants peace. Before they could ask more, Kervil's wrist device buzzed. He looked down, then quickly excused himself and left, his footsteps echoing down the hall. Kevin looked at John. That didn't sound like a friendly warning. John's jaw tightened. No, it didn't. Hours later, John stood before the massive doors of the council chamber once again. He tried to keep his mind steady, but something in the air felt different. Even the guards at the entrance stood stiffer, weapons in hand. When the doors opened, the usual chatter was gone. The chamber was silent. Every eye turned to him. At the center, High Counselor Vexer leaned forward. His voice hissed through the translator. Ambassador Carter. We have received disturbing information. John kept his tone calm. What kind of information? Vexer's mandibles clicked. Our security networks detected hidden transmissions from your ship. Coded signals sent toward the outer systems. That's impossible, John said sharply. Our ship is on lockdown. You can check the logs yourself. Another council member, the red-skinned four-armed being, spoke coldly. Perhaps your people are not as honest as you claim. Susan stepped closer to John. This is a mistake, she said. We've done nothing wrong. The delegates began murmuring among themselves, low, distrustful voices. Vexer slammed one clawed hand against the table, silencing the hall. Enough. Until these matters are investigated, your movements will be restricted. You will remain under supervision. John stared at him. You're putting us under arrest? Precaution, Vexer replied. For the safety of the galaxy. Back in their quarters, the team paced nervously. Kevin tapped furiously on his tablet. They've locked our comms. I can't contact Earth. All outgoing channels are blocked. Susan rubbed her temples. So much for diplomacy. John looked out the window again, the same cold stars, the same shining metal of the station. But this time he felt trapped. This isn't diplomacy anymore, he said. This is surveillance. He turned to Kevin. Wipe all data on our ship systems. Everything. If they're digging for something, let them find nothing. Kevin nodded and began the purge. Then a soft beep. Susan looked up. What was that? Kevin froze. It's not from my tablet. The sound came again, faint, mechanical. John followed it to the corner of the ceiling. A tiny device, almost invisible, blinked red. He climbed onto the desk and pulled it free. The small sphere was smooth, with strange alien symbols etched on it. Recording, Kevin said. They've been spying on us. John's eyes hardened. So Kervil was right. They don't trust us. He crushed the device in his hand. Then we stopped playing nice. Moments later, deep beneath the council chambers, a shadowed room filled with soft blue light. Dozens of monitors showed images of humans, walking, talking, eating. Every word recorded. A tall, thin alien stepped forward. They discovered one of the devices. Vexor's face appeared on a larger screen. His voice was cold and sharp. Then it is time. Prepare the charges against them. By tomorrow the council will vote. And if they resist, the thin alien asked, then humanity will serve as an example to every world that grows too bold. The transmission ended. Silence filled the dark room. Above, unaware of what was coming, John stared out into the black sea of stars. He didn't know it yet. But before the next sunrise on Aurelius, the first blood between humanity and the galaxy would be spilled. Narrator, final line. The council no longer wanted peace. They wanted control. And to keep it, they would start with Earth. The next morning, the lights in Aurelius Station burned brighter than usual. It felt too bright, almost artificial, almost forced, as if the council wanted to wash away the growing tension that hung in the air. Inside the human quarters, John Carter, Susan Miller, and Kevin Pierce sat in silence. The small table between them was empty. No breakfast. No guards. No messages. Nothing. They're isolating us, Kevin muttered. No communication, no food delivery. Something's wrong. Susan nodded slowly. I can feel it too. It's too quiet. John stood, straightened his uniform and faced the door. Then we face it head on. We were sent here as diplomats and that's what we'll remain. As if on cue the door hissed open. 2 armored soldiers entered, tall reptilian beings in silver armor, their weapons humming faintly. One spoke in a mechanical tone. The council demands your presence. Immediately. John gave a firm nod. Then let's not keep them waiting. The walk to the council chamber felt endless. The corridors that once looked beautiful now seemed like cages. Smooth metal walls, bright lights, security drones watching every step. When they entered the chamber, a cold silence fell. Every seat was filled. The air was thick with tension. At the center, High Counselor Vexor waited, his compound eyes fixed on John like a predator studying prey. To his left, Kervil stood rigid, his face pale, eyes full of silent fear. Ambassador John Carter of Earth, Vexor began, his voice echoing across the hall. You stand before this council accused of deception, illegal transmissions, and violations of interstellar law. John's chest tightened. That's absurd. We've done nothing of the sort. Vexor raised one claw. Evidence has been found. Transmissions to unknown coordinates. Human encryption. Military codes. Kevin stepped forward. That's a lie. Our ship's systems were locked down. A guard shoved him back with the butt of a rifle. Susan gasped. John's voice was steady, but his eyes were burning with anger. Show the evidence. Let us see it. A holographic display appeared in the air. It showed distorted signals, static-filled transmissions, coded in human script. Kevin's face went pale. That's not our encryption. Someone planted this. Vexor's tone turned cold. Then you claim to be victims of sabotage? John met his gaze. Yes. Someone wants this alliance to fail. Someone who fears humanity. Whispers rippled through the chamber, but none of them were sympathetic. Vexor stood. The council has already voted. The decision is unanimous. Susan's eyes widened. Wait, what decision? Termination of diplomatic status. Revocation of entry rights. And punishment for deception against the council. Guards surrounded them. John raised his voice trying to reason. We came in peace. You're making a mistake. This will. Vexor interrupted, his mandibles clicking sharply. This will preserve order. The galaxy cannot allow your kind to rise unchecked. John's fists clenched. You're afraid of us. Vexor leaned forward. We fear chaos. And humans are chaos. Guards seized John, Kevin, and Susan. Kevin struggled, shouting. You can't do this. We're diplomats. One of the guards struck him across the face. He fell to his knees. Susan screamed, but another guard held her back. Kervil stepped forward, desperate. High Counselor, please. This isn't justice, it's murder. Vexor turned his gaze to Kervil. Silence, Zepurian. Your loyalty is noted, and will be reviewed. Kervil froze. He said nothing more. 2 soldiers dragged John to the center platform. He stood tall despite the restraints. If you do this, he said, his voice echoing through the hall, Earth will never forget. You may silence one voice, but not the world behind it. Vexor's mandibles twitched. History is written by the survivors, human. The lights dimmed. A blue energy field surrounded John, humming, pulsing. Susan cried out. Stop. Please stop. John turned to her one last time, his expression calm and proud. Tell them, we meant peace. Then the field flared bright. For a single second, the chamber filled with blinding white light. And then silence. When the glow faded, the spot where John had stood was empty. Only the faint smell of ozone lingered in the air. Susan fell to the ground, shaking. Kevin tried to reach her, but guards dragged him away. Vexer rose from his seat. The execution is complete. Humanity's deception has been answered. Kervil turned his head away, unable to watch. You've doomed us all, he whispered. But his words were drowned out by the council's approval tones, cold mechanical chimes that echoed through the chamber like a funeral bell. Moments later, Vexer sent a signal across the galaxy, a formal statement. The human envoy has been terminated for crimes against galactic order. Earth will face sanctions until further notice. He ended the transmission and sat in silence. Outside, stars glimmered quietly, unaware that a line had just been crossed. Far away, on the edge of the solar system, deep space listening posts picked up the message. Within hours it reached Earth Command. Screens flickered in the war rooms of the United Earth Fleet. Generals stared in disbelief. Then the message repeated, terminated, terminated. And something in humanity broke. The silence of shock turned into rage. Admiral Hayes clenched his fists, eyes burning with fury. They murdered our envoy. He turned to his officers. Activate the contingency. Prepare for full mobilization. One of the officers hesitated. Sir, are you sure? That order. Hayes cut him off. You heard me. Initiate annihilation protocol. As alarms began to sound, thousands of hidden satellites across Earth's orbit came online. Long dormant shipyards lit up. Engines roared to life. Humanity, betrayed, wounded, and furious, had just declared war. Narrator, final line. The council thought they had silenced one voice, but instead they awakened an entire world. The news of John Carter's death spread across Earth like wildfire. Every screen, every broadcast, every signal carried the same cold message from the Galactic Council. The human envoy has been terminated for crimes against galactic order. No explanation. No proof. No apology. Just those words, sharp, final, and cruel. At first there was silence. Cities stopped. Flights paused. People gathered in front of giant holographic screens, unable to believe what they were hearing. Then came the outrage. From the streets of New York to the domes of Luna Base, from Mars colonies to the shipyards of Titan, humanity spoke with one voice. They killed him. They murdered our envoy. They killed peace. And deep beneath Earth's surface, in a massive command center built for war but never used, alarms began to sound. United Earth Command, Geneva Sector. Rows of officers stood frozen as the recording of the execution played in silence. The flickering image of John Carter's last words echoed through the room. Tell them, we meant peace. No one moved. Then, slowly, Admiral William Hayes rose from his chair. His face was pale, his jaw tight. Seal this room, he ordered quietly. No signals in or out. The doors shut with a metallic clang. Red lights flashed across the control panels. He looked around the table, at generals, scientists, diplomats, leaders from every nation and colony. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Hayes said the words no one expected to hear. Begin annihilation protocol. A low gasp filled the room. One officer stood. Sir. That protocol was never meant to be activated. Hayes slammed his fist on the table. It's meant for this exact moment. They executed a peaceful envoy. They executed Earth. He turned toward the main screen showing the Galactic Council's seal. From this moment, humanity is no longer under their authority. We answer only to ourselves. In orbit, fleets began to awaken. For years, humanity had hidden its true strength, building advanced weapons under the guise of exploration. Massive carriers disguised as mining vessels. Automated defense platforms hidden around moons and asteroids. Stealth fleets docked in deep space, waiting for an order that no one ever thought would come. Now that order had come. Lights flickered on across the dark side of the moon. Docking clamps released. Engines flared to life. One by one, the ships of the Terran Defense Armada rose from their hiding places, like steel giants waking from a long sleep. From Mars, fleets launched toward deep space. From Titan's icy shipyards, long-range destroyers took flight. From Jupiter's moons, signal beacons lit up the void. Earth's response wasn't words. It was movement, silent, precise, unstoppable. On the ground, scientists worked inside underground vaults, activating old projects once considered too dangerous. Massive reactors powered up. Energy readings spiked off the charts. Dr. Elena Shaw, head of Project Horizon, looked at the numbers and whispered, "It's awake, after all these years." Her assistant trembled. "You mean, the orbital rail network?" She nodded. "All of it." The power of an entire planet's defense grid began to hum. In space, a transmission left Earth, encrypted, untraceable, fast. It traveled beyond the solar system, bouncing between hidden relays. Message code, Carter Protocol initiated. In the Galactic Council's command center, panic spread as reports came in. Massive human activity detected in Sol system. Thousands of ships leaving orbit. Unidentified energy signatures, far beyond Council weapon output. Vexer watched the data appear across his screens. "Impossible," he hissed. "They should be disorganized, broken. They just lost their leader." Kervil stood beside him, face pale but calm. "You never understood them," he said softly. "You took one of their own and expected silence. You don't know humans." Vexer's compound eyes flashed red. "You sound like them." Kervil didn't deny it. "Maybe that's why I know what's coming." Back on Earth, Admiral Hayes addressed the planet through a global broadcast. His face appeared on every screen, in homes, ships, and colonies. "This is not a war we wanted," he began. "But it is a war we have been given. They took our envoy. They took our voice. But they cannot take our will. From this day forward, Earth stands united. The Council wanted to silence humanity, but now they will hear us louder than ever." He raised his hand. "To all fleet commanders, proceed to Operation Dawnfire." The transmission ended. In orbit, Earth's sky lit up like dawn. Engines igniting, ships breaking formation, thousands moving in perfect silence. The Terran Armada had begun its march. In the quiet of his office, Admiral Hayes stood alone, staring at a photo, John Carter shaking his hand before departure. "You tried peace, John," he whispered. "Now it's my turn to try something else." Outside his window, the night sky burned with streaks of light, humanity's vengeance rising toward the stars. Narrator, final lines. The Council thought Earth would bow in fear. But they forgot one truth written deep into human history. When you strike down one of us, you awaken all of us. The stars looked peaceful, silent, endless. But beneath that silence, war was coming. The Galactic Council gathered in emergency session. Every major species filled the Hall of Voices, thousands of glowing seats suspended in a vast chamber. The air was thick with fear. Screens around the hall showed endless human ships leaving Sol system. Thousands of vessels. Fleets moving with impossible coordination, like a storm spreading across the stars. Chancellor Vexer slammed his clawed hand on the table. "This is an act of rebellion. Humanity must be destroyed before they spread further." Ambassador Kervil stood slowly, his scales shimmering under the pale light. "Destroyed?" he said coldly. "You murdered their envoy. What did you expect them to do?" "Thank you." "Enough," Vexer roared. "I will not be lectured by a traitor." He turned to the other council members. "Deploy the fleets. Burn their homeworld if you must. Let the humans see who rules this galaxy." The chamber erupted in chaos. Orders were set. Armadas began to move. The galactic war had begun. Outer Rim, Sector 12. A formation of 20 Council warships cut through the void. Their sensors locked on a single human signal, a cargo vessel drifting near a small moon. The lead ship's commander smirked. "Pathetic. A transport ship." He opened a channel. "Unidentified human vessel. You are in violation of galactic order. Prepare to be." Before he could finish, the cargo vessel unfolded. Panels shifted. Hidden armor plates locked into place. Dozens of cannons emerged from its hull. It wasn't a cargo ship. It was a warship in disguise. "Target locked," came a cold voice from inside. "Fire." A blinding beam tore through space. The lead Council cruiser vanished, erased in an instant. Before the others could react, 2 more human ships decloaked behind them. The sky filled with fire. In less than a minute, the entire fleet was gone. The human commander watched the wreckage drift away and said quietly, "Message to Earth, Operation Dawnfire successful. Earth Defense Command, Strategic Room." Admiral Hayes stood over a holographic map glowing with hundreds of red dots, enemy fleets closing in on every human colony. "Status?" he asked. "Enemy fleets entering the Kuiper Belt, sir." 37 confirmed. Hayes nodded. "Activate Black Horizon." The officer hesitated. "Sir, that's a planetary weapon." Hayes didn't blink. So was their arrogance. Moments later, the skies above Neptune lit up. A blinding ring of light expanded outward, invisible energy sweeping through space. Council ships dropped out of warp one by one, engines dead, systems frozen. The human fleet moved in silently, finishing them with precision strikes. No words. No mercy. Just silence and light. Meanwhile, Galactic Council headquarters. Panic spread like wildfire. Every hour new reports arrived. Entire fleets, gone. Outposts destroyed. Systems offline. One report stunned everyone. Human forces have entered Council space. How? Vexor demanded. They're too far. It's impossible. Kervil looked at the map, eyes narrowing. They're not using our routes, they made their own. Indeed, human ships were appearing through deep space folds, hidden wormholes and gravitational tunnels unknown to the Council. They weren't fighting like other species. They were thinking like humans. Council Fleet Command, Sector 9. General AR-10 watched as his fleet of 100 warships prepared for battle. Form defensive grid, he shouted. They will come from the front. A voice crackled over the comm. General, new contacts detected, behind us. What? That's impossible. The void split open, thousands of tiny ripples in space. From them hundreds of small agile ships burst out, surrounding the fleet. Each ship bore the insignia, United Earth Navy. Then came the voice, calm, human and cold. This is Commander Pierce of the Terran 7th Fleet. You killed our envoy. You attacked our worlds. Now you'll learn what that cost. The battle that followed would later be called the Burning of Sector 9. 100 Council ships fell before sunrise. Only one human casualty. Council Hall 8 hours later. Vexor stared at the destruction reports in disbelief. Entire sectors gone. Worlds turning dark. How did they build such power? He whispered. Kervil looked at him with quiet rage. They built it while you laughed at them. Vexor turned toward him, voice trembling. They'll destroy everything. Kervil nodded slowly. Yes. That's what happens when you execute peace. Back on Earth, Admiral Hayes stood in the command chamber, surrounded by holograms of Allied ships. The human fleet now stretched across the stars, united, efficient, unrelenting. Begin the next phase, he ordered. An officer turned. Sir, what should we call it? Hayes looked up at the screen showing the Galactic Council symbol. Call it what it is, he said. Justice. Narrator closing lines. The galaxy wanted humanity to kneel. Instead, it learned what happens when you push humanity too far. The war had just begun. And the stars would never be the same again. Space was burning. Where once stars shone peacefully, now whole sectors glowed red with fire and wreckage. The Galactic Council's fleets, once proud, unstoppable, were shattered and scattered. Every broadcast across the galaxy carried the same message. Humanity is coming. The Council homeworld, Virilon Prime, stood as the last stronghold. Massive defense rings surrounded the planet. Thousands of ships, planetary shields and orbital cannons guarded it. Chancellor Vexor watched from his balcony, his claws gripping the railing. The sky above shimmered with the light of distant explosions. This was never supposed to happen, he whispered. Ambassador Kervil stood behind him, silent. He had warned them, but no one had listened. Now the galaxy was paying for its arrogance. Scene: Earth Command War Council Room. Admiral Hayes stood before a holographic projection of Virilon Prime. Dozens of officers watched in silence as red lines marked the enemy's defenses. Hayes spoke calmly. We end this war today. The Council must fall. Commander Susan Miller, standing beside him, hesitated. Sir, they've already lost. Billions will die if we strike the planet. Hayes turned to her. Billions already have, Commander. We sent diplomats. They sent executioners. Kevin Pierce stepped forward, his voice steady. Permission to lead the vanguard, sir. Hayes nodded slowly. You've earned it. Make them remember who we are. Scene: Deep Space Human Armada. A fleet of 3,000 human warships formed a silent wall of steel and light. The stars dimmed behind them. In the command ship UN Resolute, Commander Pierce looked at the countdown on his console. Jump in 3, 2, 1. Reality folded. The fleet appeared over Virilon Prime like ghosts. Council alarms screamed. Human ships detected. Thousands of them. The humans didn't respond. They just advanced. The first wave. Council cannons fired, beams of plasma cutting through the void. But the humans were ready. They moved like one mind, dodging fire, returning volleys with terrifying precision. Pierce's ship dove straight into the middle of the fleet, unleashing drones, torpedoes, and railgun fire. Council ships exploded one after another, each detonation lighting up the blackness like falling stars. In the chaos, Pierce opened a channel. To the Council Defense Command, this is Commander Pierce of Earth. You executed our envoy in cold blood. You declared war on our species. Now you will face the consequences of your own choice. Scene, Council Hall, Emergency Session. The Grand Chamber trembled as explosions echoed above. Holograms flickered. Some council members were already gone, their homeworlds destroyed, their fleets lost. Chancellor Vexer slammed his clawed hand down. We surrender. Send them a message. We yield. But before he could speak again, the chamber doors burst open. Ambassador Kervil entered, holding a communicator. Too late, he said. They're already here. The ceiling split open, fire raining down as a human shuttle descended into the center of the hall. The doors opened and a group of armored humans stepped out. At their lead, Admiral Hayes himself. He looked around the massive hall. So many species that once looked down on humanity, now trembling in fear. Vexer's voice shook. You can't do this. Hayes walked closer. You murdered our envoy. You tried to erase our species. We asked for peace. You gave us graves. He stopped in front of the Chancellor. The only thing you can do now is listen. Scene, broadcast to the galaxy. Cameras turned toward Hayes as his message went live to every system. This war ends today. Humanity will not destroy the innocent. But the Galactic Council as it once stood, is over. From this moment forward, no species will rule over another. We are free, all of us. He turned to the human troops. Deactivate the Annihilation Protocol. Across space, human fleets powered down their weapons. Engines went quiet. The war was over. Scene, aftermath, a new dawn. Days later, the skies over Virulon Prime cleared. Human engineers worked side by side with alien crews, rebuilding cities, healing what war had broken. Kervil stood beside Hayes, looking up at the stars. Will humanity rule now? He asked. Hayes shook his head. No. We'll lead by example, not fear. Kervil smiled faintly. Then perhaps there is hope for all of us. Hayes looked out at the horizon where twin suns were rising. The galaxy wanted us gone, he said quietly. But we're still here. Stronger. Wiser. United. Final narration. The council tried to silence one voice, and woke 1,000 more. Humanity was not born to rule or obey. They were born to endure. And in the ashes of war they built a new beginning. The stars would remember their name forever.